The sentence landed wrong the second it left his mouth. I need to leave early today. I have a date. For 3 years, nothing had ever landed wrong between them. The CEO looked up from her screen slowly, not because she was surprised, but because her body did not know how to process the interruption. The office was quiet in the way only power made it quiet. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a desk that had never been cluttered, a woman who had built her life on control. Her executive assistant stood across from her desk, posture straight, expression calm. The same man who had never missed a deadline, never asked for time off without weeks of notice, never volunteered personal information. He was precise, efficient, invisible when necessary, until now. I'm sorry, she said, voice even. You have what? A date, he repeated. No apology this time, just a statement. She stared at him, waiting for the follow-up that usually came, the explanation, the justification. He did not offer one. Her first reaction was irritation, not jealousy. That came later. Irritation that the rhythm had been broken, that something unscheduled had slipped through her system. You're leaving during business hours, she said. We have the board call at 5. I prepped everything already. You won't need me, he said. She hated that he was right. For 3 years she had relied on him without ever acknowledging how deeply. He ran her life with quiet precision. He anticipated problems before they existed. He managed her calendar like a chessboard. She trusted him in ways she trusted no one else. And she knew absolutely nothing about him. No photos on his desk. No casual talk about weekends. No stories about friends, relationships, past lives. She had never noticed how intentional that absence was until it cracked open. A date, she repeated again, slower now. Yes. With whom? The question slipped out sharper than intended. He hesitated. Just a fraction. Then he said, Someone important to me. The silence thickened. She leaned back in her chair, fingers pressing into the leather armrest. This was not about policy. This was not about professionalism. This was something else, something she did not have language for. You've never mentioned anyone, she said. You've never asked. That landed harder than the first sentence. Her jaw tightened. She reached for the cigarette case she had quit pretending was decorative. She had not smoked in months. She slid one out anyway, lit it, inhaled. The burn grounded her, or at least she wanted it to. You're aware this is unprofessional, she said. He met her gaze, calm, steady, not defensive. I'm aware this is personal, he replied. And I don't usually bring personal things into this office. Today is different. Why? Because today matters. That was when it hit her. Not jealousy, not anger, fear. Fear that the man she depended on most existed entirely outside her world. Fear that she had built a life so controlled that real people only existed as functions. She exhaled smoke slowly. Go, she said. He nodded, turned, walked out. The door closed softly behind him, and for the first time in years her office felt empty. The office stayed quiet long after he left. Not productive quiet. Not the kind she was used to. This was the kind that pressed in on her ears and made every thought louder than it should be. She stared at the open calendar on her screen. Everything was color-coded, flawless, airtight, every minute accounted for. He had built this system with her, refined it, protected it, and yet, with one sentence, he had stepped outside it. A date. She crushed the cigarette in the ashtray harder than necessary and stood up. The windows reflected her back at her. Perfect suit, perfect posture. A woman who had everything handled, except this. She tried to focus on the board call, tried to rehearse numbers, tried to remember when she had last left the office early for something that mattered to her. Nothing came to mind. There was always another meeting, another goal, another quarter to dominate. Her phone buzzed, a message from him. Everything is set. Board documents are on your desk. Call me if you need anything. If you need anything, she scoffed quietly. He knew she wouldn't call. An hour passed, then another. The board call went smoothly as it always did. She answered questions without hesitation, her voice sharp and confident. No one noticed anything was off. But the moment it ended, the silence rushed back in. She gathered her coat without thinking, told herself she was leaving because it was late, because she deserved a break, because she didn't owe anyone an explanation. That was a lie. She didn't know where he was going. She didn't even know why she cared. But the image wouldn't leave her head. Him saying a date with that calm certainty. Not nervous, not proud, just settled. The parking garage was colder than usual. She slid into her car and sat there longer than necessary, hands resting on the steering wheel. For the first time in years, she didn't have a destination. Then she remembered something small, a detail she had dismissed 100 times. Every day at exactly 4:45, no matter how chaotic things were, he became untouchable. No meetings scheduled, no calls taken. She had assumed it was efficiency, boundaries. She pulled out of the garage. The address came back to her quicker than she expected. Not his home, a school. She had signed off on a delivery contract near it once. She remembered because he had insisted on a specific time window. She parked across the street, heart beating faster than logic could justify, and then she saw him, not in a suit, not behind a tablet, not controlled. He was crouched down, tying a child's shoelace, a little girl, maybe 6. Dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail. She was talking animatedly, hands flying, completely unaware of the way he was watching her. His face was different, softer, unguarded, like a man who belonged somewhere. The woman beside him laughed, not young, not glamorous, just real. She touched the girl's shoulder gently, familiar, comfortable. The CEO stayed frozen in her car. This wasn't a date, this was a life. The girl grabbed his hand and pulled him toward a small ice cream shop down the street. He followed without hesitation, letting himself be led. Something in the CEO's chest tightened painfully. 3 years. 3 years of working beside him, relying on him, trusting him. And she had never once seen this version of him, never once asked. She watched them disappear inside the shop, lights glowing warm against the darkening street. For the first time, the power she had built around herself felt useless. And for the first time in a very long time, she felt profoundly alone. Before we continue the story, drop a comment telling me how you liked it, where you're watching from, and give this story a rating out of 10. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the best stories. She did not follow them inside. Instead, she drove. The city blurred past her windshield, lights smearing into color, streets she knew by muscle memory suddenly unfamiliar. She realized how little she ever moved without purpose. Every drive was usually tied to an outcome. Tonight, there was none. The image wouldn't leave her, him kneeling on the sidewalk, the child's small hand wrapped around his finger, the ease of it, the way he looked like someone who belonged to another world entirely. She pulled over near a quiet park and shut the engine off. Sat there in the dark with the window cracked, listening to distant traffic and the faint sound of laughter somewhere far away. Loneliness wasn't new to her. She had just learned how to function without acknowledging it. It was a controlled absence, like everything else. But tonight, it pressed against her ribs. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from him. I'll be unavailable for the rest of the evening. I'll be in early tomorrow. No explanation. No apology. She stared at the screen longer than necessary, then locked it and dropped the phone into the cup holder like it might burn her. Early tomorrow. Of course he would be. She thought of the countless mornings he arrived before her, coffee already waiting, calendar already adjusted, problems already solved. She had built her empire on that consistency, and she had never wondered what it cost him, or who it was for. The next morning she arrived early on purpose, not to test him. She told herself that firmly. Just early. The office lights were still dim when she stepped inside. The floor was quiet, empty. For a brief moment she wondered if he would even be there. He was. At his desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled, typing with the same measured focus she had always known. The world snapped back into place the second she saw him. Relief came, uninvited. He looked up. Good morning, he said. No tension. No awkwardness. as if yesterday hadn't cracked something open. "Good morning," she replied. She walked into her office but didn't sit. Instead, she stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the city wake up. The silence stretched. He waited, always patient. "You never told me you had a daughter," she said finally. "I never told you a lot of things," he replied gently. She turned to face him. He had stepped into the doorway without her noticing, still keeping distance, still respecting boundaries she hadn't realized she enforced so rigidly. "Why?" she asked. He considered the question carefully. "Because this job wasn't supposed to know me. It was supposed to need me." That stung more than she expected. "And the woman with you?" she asked. "My sister," he said. "She helps when she can." The tension in her chest eased, replaced by something more complicated. "You called it a date," she said. "I did. Why?" He met her eyes. No challenge, no defiance. "Because I don't explain myself anymore," he said. "Not when it comes to my daughter." She nodded slowly. She respected that. She hated that she respected it. There was a pause, a fragile one. "I didn't realize how much I depended on you," she said quietly. "I know," he said. Not arrogant, not smug, just honest. "And yet you've never depended on me," she added. His expression softened. "That's not true. I depended on you to let me leave early yesterday." She exhaled slowly. He was right. Something shifted between them then. Subtle, unnamed. The professional distance still existed, but it no longer felt like armor. It felt like a choice. And choices, she was realizing, could be changed. The shift didn't announce itself. It settled in quietly. Meetings went on as usual. Emails stacked up. Decisions were made. But beneath the structure, something had loosened. The CEO noticed it in small, unsettling ways. She caught herself watching him longer when he spoke, listening for tone instead of content, wondering what time he would leave. At 4:45 he stood. Every day. No rush, no guilt. He gathered his things with the same calm he brought to everything else. The first day she said nothing. The second day she almost didn't. "Do you always leave at that time?" she asked, as casually as she could manage. "Yes," he said. "School pickup." She nodded, pretended to check her screen. The third day she surprised herself. "You don't have to come in early tomorrow," she said. "We're light." He paused. "Just a moment. I like coming in early." "I know," she replied. "But you don't always have to." He studied her, searching for something beneath the words. "All right." The next morning, he arrived 10 minutes later than usual. It shouldn't have mattered. It did. The office felt off, like a missing note in a familiar song. She hated that her focus fractured so easily, hated that her sense of control now depended on someone else's presence. At noon, she asked him to join her for lunch. It was a first. They sat in a quiet restaurant 2 blocks away. No laptops, no phones, just food growing cold between them. "You don't usually leave the building," he observed. "I don't usually eat," she replied. He smiled faintly. "That explains a lot." She didn't snap at him. That was new too. "How old is she?" she asked. 6, he said. "Almost 7. She seemed happy." "She is," he said without hesitation. "Her mother?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. He didn't bristle. "She passed away 3 years ago." The timing hit her like a physical blow. 3 years, the same amount of time he had worked for her. "I'm sorry," she said. "Thank you." Silence fell heavier this time. Not uncomfortable, just real. "You could have told me," she said. He shook his head. "I didn't want sympathy. I wanted stability." She understood that instinct more than she liked. After lunch, they walked back together. The city moved around them, indifferent and loud. For once, she didn't mind being just another person on the sidewalk. That afternoon, something happened that should not have rattled her as much as it did. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen and answered immediately. "Hey, what's wrong?" She heard the shift in his voice. Concern, focus, fear. "I'm coming now." he said, already reaching for his jacket. Stay where you are. He looked at her. I need to go. She didn't ask why. Go, she said. He hesitated. Then, unexpectedly, he added, Would you like to come? The question hung between them. She had board prep, investor emails, 100 reasons to say no. Instead, she heard herself say, yes. The drive was quiet. He explained briefly. His daughter had fallen at school. Nothing serious, probably. They arrived to find her sitting on a bench, knees scraped, eyes bright with unshed tears. The moment she saw him, she ran. He caught her easily, held her like the world could break, but she wouldn't. The CEO stood back, unsure where she belonged. The girl looked at her curiously. Who's that? He smiled. That's someone important. The CEO felt something inside her crack open. The girl's grip loosened as quickly as it had tightened. Children recovered faster than adults ever did. I'm fine, she declared, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. I didn't even cry. You cried, he said gently. Only a little, she corrected. He smiled at her the way he never smiled at anyone else. The CEO watched from a few steps away, unsure whether to step closer or disappear entirely. This is... He paused, then looked at the CEO. What would you like me to call you? She wasn't used to that question. Titles were automatic. Names were optional. Just, my name is fine, she said. The girl nodded solemnly. You look scary. The CEO blinked. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed. It startled all three of them. I get that a lot, she said. You don't look scary now, the girl added thoughtfully. You look tired. That landed with uncomfortable accuracy. He crouched to inspect the scraped knee. We'll clean it when we get home, okay? The girl nodded, already bored of the injury. Can we still get ice cream? He looked up at the CEO, an unspoken question in his eyes. She nodded. I'd like that. They walked together, slower this time. The ice cream shop smelled like sugar and comfort. The girl ordered confidently. He paid without looking. The CEO sat across from them, hands folded, watching a life unfold that had nothing to do with quarterly targets or authority. What do you do? The girl asked her suddenly. I run a company, the CEO replied. Like a boss? The girl asked. She hesitated. Yes. The girl considered this. My dad is my boss. He snorted softly. Do you tell people what to do all day? The girl asked. Sometimes, the CEO admitted. That sounds boring, the girl said, returning to her ice cream. The CEO smiled. It wasn't offended. It was relieved. Afterward, they walked back to his car. The girl skipped ahead, humming to herself. He watched her with quiet vigilance. Thank you for coming, he said. Thank you for inviting me, she replied. At his car, the girl climbed into the back seat. Are you coming again? The question wasn't for today, it was for the future. The CEO hesitated. Then she said, If your dad says it's okay. He met her gaze. Something unspoken passed between them. Not romance, not yet. Trust. She's welcome, he said. The drive back was quieter. The girl fell asleep, ice cream smudged on her chin. He adjusted the mirror to keep her in view. You don't have to be alone, he said suddenly. She didn't answer right away. I've built my life around not needing anyone, she said finally. And are you happy? He asked. She thought of her empty apartment, her silent mornings, her flawless calendar. No, she admitted. They parked outside her building. He walked her to the door. Good night, he said. Good night. She stood in the doorway longer than necessary, watching him leave. For the first time, her life felt less complete than she had always claimed it was. And for the first time, that didn't terrify her. The following weeks rewired her routine in ways she hadn't planned. She still arrived early, still ran meetings with precision, still carried authority like a second skin. But now there were interruptions she didn't shut down. A knock on her door at 4:40. I need to leave in 5, he'd say. I know, she'd reply. Sometimes she'd look up from her screen and ask how was school. He would answer, briefly at first, then, with time, more openly. A spelling test, a classmate drama, a teacher conference. Small things that somehow carried more weight than million-dollar decisions. She started leaving earlier too. Not every day, just sometimes. She told herself it was balance, or curiosity, or leadership sustainability. All lies. The truth was simpler. She didn't want to miss being asked. The girl grew comfortable around her in a way that disarmed her. She asked direct questions. She accepted answers without judgment. She didn't care about status. One afternoon, while he was finishing a call in the kitchen, the girl looked up at the CEO and said, "You don't smile much." The CEO raised an eyebrow. "Is that bad?" "It makes people think you don't like them," the girl said. "Do you think I don't like you?" she asked. The girl shook her head. "No, you just don't practice." Practice. The word stayed with her. At work, something else shifted. He stopped anticipating every need, not out of negligence, out of trust. "You can handle this," he'd say. She hated how much she liked hearing that. One evening, after the girl was asleep, they sat at his kitchen table with untouched coffee between them. No agenda, no urgency. "I won't stay forever," he said quietly. Her chest tightened. "I know. I'm not threatening to leave," he added. "I'm just being honest." She nodded. She respected honesty. It didn't make it easier. "You could have more," she said. "So could you," he replied. The truth sat between them, heavy and undeniable. At work, rumors started, subtle glances, questions she shut down with a look. She didn't care. What scared her wasn't perception, it was possibility. The night it finally broke, she stayed late without meaning to. He came to her door, jacket on. "You forgot the time," he said gently. "I did," she admitted. "You okay?" She shook her head. He waited. "I don't know how to do this," she said. "I don't know how to let people matter without losing myself." He considered her words carefully. "You don't lose yourself by caring," he said. "You learn who you are when it's harder." She closed her eyes. When she opened them, she said, "Stay." He didn't misunderstand. "I can't," he said softly. "Not tonight." She nodded. It hurt, but it was honest. As he turned to leave, she added, "Come tomorrow, not early, on time." He smiled, really smiled. "I will." He came in on time the next morning, not early, not late. Exactly when the workday officially began, she noticed immediately. So did the office. There was a different energy between them now, not visible, not dramatic, but present. Like two people who knew something no one else did and weren't trying to hide it or explain it. They worked smoothly, better than before somehow. Less friction, fewer unspoken expectations. When she asked for something, it was because she needed it, not because she assumed it would already be done. When he offered help, it was intentional. That afternoon, she made a decision that would have terrified her a month ago. She declined a late meeting. "I'll handle it tomorrow," she told the board chair without explanation. At 4:45, she stood. He looked up. "You leaving?" "Yes," she said. "I was invited." He didn't ask where. He just nodded. The girl opened the door before he could knock. "You're early," she said accusingly. "You're right on time," he corrected. The CEO watched the exchange from behind him, something warm and unfamiliar settling in her chest. They cooked together. Or tried to. The girl insisted on cracking eggs and dropped half of them. The CEO flinched instinctively at the mess, then stopped herself. "It's fine," she said, surprising everyone, including herself. Later, they sat on the couch while the girl fell asleep between them, head on her father's shoulder, feet on the CEO's leg without asking permission. She didn't move. When he carried the girl to bed, the CEO stood alone in the living room, taking in the quiet, the photos on the wall, the shoes by the door, a life that had grown around love and loss and kept going anyway. He came back and sat beside her. "This is usually where things get complicated," he said. She smiled faintly. "Everything important is—" "I can't blur lines at work," he continued. "Not for you, not for her. I wouldn't respect you if you did, she said. He nodded. Good. There was a pause. Then she said, I don't want ownership. I don't want control. I just don't want distance for the sake of fear. He studied her carefully. And if this changes things, it already has, she replied. They didn't touch. Not then. They didn't need to. The next week, she announced a restructuring. Quietly, efficiently. He would no longer report directly to her. A promotion. A shift sideways and up. Clean, professional. When she told him, he searched her face. This isn't you pushing me away, he said. No, she replied. It's me making room. He exhaled, something like relief crossing his face. The girl hugged her goodbye that evening. You smile more now, she observed. The CEO smiled again, practicing. The first morning he didn't sit outside her office felt strange. Not wrong, just different. She watched him move through the floor with ease, respected in a way that had nothing to do with proximity to her power anymore. He belonged here on his own terms now. She had made sure of that. They spoke less during the day, more intentionally. No shortcuts, no assumptions. It was harder. It was better. Weeks passed. The company thrived. That part had never been in question. What surprised her was how much lighter leadership felt when it wasn't the only thing holding her up. Some evenings she joined them for dinner. Others she didn't. No guilt either way. No tests. No pressure. One night, the girl handed her a drawing. It showed 3 figures holding hands. One was tall and square. One was smaller with messy hair. One was stiff, then slightly less stiff, like the artist had changed her mind halfway through. That's you, the girl said, pointing. You look nicer here. The CEO laughed quietly. Thank you. Later, after the girl was asleep, he walked her to her car. You've changed, he said. So have you, she replied. I was already living, he said gently. You just stepped into it. She considered that. I didn't know how. You're learning. She stopped by her car and turned to face him. No cigarette. No armor. Just honesty. I don't need this to become something dramatic, she said. I don't need promises. He nodded. Neither do I. I just don't want to go back to who I was before I knew, she added. He stepped closer. Not touching yet. You won't. She looked up at him. For the first time there was no fear in it. No calculation. Stay, she said. Not tonight. Not out of loneliness. Stay in the choice. He smiled. Soft. Real. I am, he said. The kiss, when it happened, was unremarkable in the way real things often are. No rush, no fireworks, just recognition. Months later, someone asked her in an interview how she balanced power and humanity. She paused before answering. I stopped believing they were opposites, she said. That night, she left the office early, and for the first time in her life, she didn't look back.